We are good to go.
Injuries aren't common.
My husband always worked on our cars himself.
It is 6 o'clock. If everybody's ready, we'll call this meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody. Britt, would you call roll, please?
Amy. Here. Mike.
Here.
Rebecca. Here. Matt.
Here.
Debbie. Here. 5 members present. Thank you.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None.
Okay, none being heard. The first order of business is communications from the audience. Are there any in-person folks who would like to address the board? Okay, none being heard, we'll move on to district reports. The first district report is the superintendent's report. Mr. Hanhart, you have the floor.
Thank you. We'll be recommending Ms. Annalise Lassiter as our successful candidate for the Director of Finance position for the Bayfield School District later this evening. Ms. Lassiter is a BHS graduate that brings a long history from our community. She brings an extensive background in finance throughout her career to this position. We're excited to have Ms. Lassiter on our team. And as I mentioned previously, Mr. Moore and Ms. Lassiter will have the opportunity to work together for several months to ensure a smooth transition. And Ms. Lassiter sitting here in the front row.
Hello.
Annalise. Pleasure to meet you.
Mr. Hesford and I had the opportunity to attend the K-State Superintendent's Conference last week in Crested Butte. We were invited to present to the state on our continuous improvement efforts here in Bayfield and our partnership with Studer Education. It was a great opportunity to share the great and amazing things that are happening in Bayfield and to be spotlighted amongst the statewide superintendents. BHS Homecoming Week is October the 8th through the 14th, and I've included the tentative schedule here for you. I'm not going to read through all that. Except for Friday is the parade, and you are all invited to be on the float on Friday. CASB has reached out and asked if we would name an alternate voting delegate from our district to represent us if Mr. Turner was not available. And really, we're looking to see if any of you would be willing to be a volunteer for the alternate voting delegate representing Bayfield School District.
Do you travel?
If Mr. Turner's unable to, is my understanding.
Well, can't you vote?
You can vote remotely. You're just not allowed to have a say. You're not allowed to.
They sent out
Okay.
an extensive email around the rules. The virtual.
They
voting.
did.
So,
It's only twice a year,
Twice a year.
and then you go to like that special event at the CASB conference as well. Isn't
Correct.
there? Okay.
And we don't have to have an answer tonight, but CASB was just asking if we could name an alternate. Please remember that we will be hosting the regional CASB presentation and meeting tomorrow at Bayfield Intermediate School at 4:30 p.m. This meeting is for Board of Education members region-wide. And Kathy Plomer, State Board of Education member, she's our at-large member, so she doesn't have her own district. We'll be here on Friday to meet with myself and tour our facilities. So we'll tour around, and I think just looking at how state issues are affecting us and having that conversation. And our Board of Education retreat is scheduled for October the 12th from 11 to 6 at Bayfield Intermediate School. We're looking forward to sharing data reports from each building as well as the district. Dr. Coleman from Studer Education will be here to work with us on developing school and district scorecards and defining metrics for our work. And I'll send out the tentative agenda later this week. That is all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Hanhart?
None.
Okay, none being heard, we'll move on to the next item, which is board member reports. We'll start with Mr. Turner.
As Superintendent Hanhart mentioned, I will be attending the CASB conference October 6th and 7th. I'll have a decent report from you guys when I come back.
Okay.
Yes, I attended the DAC meeting last Tuesday. I'm going to share a quick review of our school district performance framework ratings. And in 2023, the district received an accredited rating with an increase of 3.3% over last year. So that's good news. All three of our schools that were tested, which were BIS, BMS, and BHS, all received a performance rating as well, which is great. And the middle school and high school saw an increase in percentage points over the year prior. We also talked about celebrations and recognitions at some of the schools. Bayfield High School is at 92% average daily attendance, which is high compared to national norms, and an increase for our area also, or for our school specifically. And then we also exceeded expectations for post-secondary readiness for disaggregated groups. So that's good. Over at the intermediate school, 2023 CMAS fifth grade outpaced the state in students meeting or exceeding English language arts. And over at the middle school, we saw 52% of BMS students participating in a fall sport, which I think I shared briefly at our last meeting. And over at the primary school, we talked a little bit about how they are continuing to focus on building a positive school culture and climate for staff and students, shifting more from extrinsic to intrinsic motivators. Also important to note is that our next DAC meeting date has changed. We're going to be meeting on November 8th at 8:30 at the Pine River Library instead of November 14th as originally planned. That's all I've got. Any questions?
I don't remember the last time we had 3 schools in performance.
Yes.
Really?
I know.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we have, but it's been a while.
In 2019 we did, in 2022 we did not. And then in 2023, we're back to all 3 schools.
That's awesome.
Some of that hard work is paying off.
For sure. Good job to everybody.
I just got 3 policies for you guys in discussion that we can discuss at time. If that works for you.
I did have a San Juan BOCES meeting on the 13th. Most of the schools didn't really report anything new going on. We're still in the information stage on Montezuma Cortez. If they have applied to exit, but it's still in process. There's really no new information on any of that.
Okay. And I don't have any updates from the finance committee this week. We'll be voting on the classified wage adjustments later in the meeting. District reports. Doesn't appear that we have
We have
district reports tonight. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda, the personnel agenda and the approval of the minutes from September 12th. Are there any questions or discussions on either of these items?
No.
I'll make a motion that we approve the personnel agenda and approve the minutes from September 12th, 2023 meeting as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Rick, would you call the question, please?
Amy,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Debbie.
Aye.
Consent agenda carries 5-0. Thank you.
Next agenda item, discussion items. We have 1 discussion item, which are several policies.
Yep.
Amy?
We've got 3. So if you look at the first 2, we've got 2 new. The first BC school board member conduct, the second BCR school board member financial disclosure, and then the third one is staff conduct GBEB, and that one has been revised. There's an adjustment of the gift band dollar amount, and that one is required by law. So why don't we start, can we start with that one?
Sure.
Staff conduct, let's go to that one first, since this one we have had in place since 2011 with revisions throughout. And again, this one, if you see item 4 under rules of conduct, they've added tantamount, that's a good word, to a gift of substantial value in bold there. Is that the only change?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, that's the only change.
I don't know why I'm not sure.
Mine's not bold either.
Mine is.
Mine is.
Mine's bold.
No. Click on our policy, this one, don't click on the
Yeah.
Yeah,
CASB.
click on
you
that.
can't do the red line.
Don't click on the red line, click on this one. There you go.
So yeah, it's
There you
on
go.
page 1, number 4.
So before you just weren't allowed to receive any economic benefit at all, and now it's tantamount to a gift of substantial value.
Yes, clear as day, right?
I was like, that does not seem much more
Clear as mud.
I thought there was a change from $65 to $75 in the policies we saw, these policies a week or two ago. I thought, now,
These,
and I thought, yeah.
Well, you gotta look at the B policies.
Why am I not seeing?
Oh, we talked about $75.
The actual month, like the,
Monetary amount.
it's not in this GBEB.
But
Just
BCR does,
BC and BCR have.
and that's
amounts
where
in
it talks about the $75.
Correct.
Why would they not just say the $75? Yeah, that to be
Good question.
continuous
They like the
through each
word
policy.
tantamount.
That's great.
It's a vague for me, Mike.
you don't see that
Kim
word every day.
Jong-un. Last time I heard it.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're talking about this, okay.
Then how come in the cross, okay, we don't have to go down this path, but why in the cross references does it not then cross-reference BCR?
Because BC and BCR are only for board members.
They're only board, yeah, this is staff.
It's just-
And we don't have those policies yet.
Right.
Those are brand new.
And we're not considered staff, got it?
No.
Okay. So then really tantamount does not apply to the $75 if those are,
Well, they hit tantamount in BC under school board member conduct, but yes, you don't, this is, the other one is for staff explicitly. And these two are for Board of Education members.
right, but what I'm saying, if these two are for Board of Education members and that one is for staff and
Mhm.
staff says tantamount and school board members say $75, then they're not really.
But if you look at BC, 4 is almost the same. That one is,
BCR,
R is the regulation, I guess, and then the BC is the policy. So they go hand in hand. This delves into the financial disclosure, and this is the conduct one, which reads almost the same. I think it's almost exactly the same, except for.
And my understanding is GBEB is required by law for us to add that piece to it. BC and BCR are not required by law. Is my understanding.
I don't mind these, I'm just trying to wrap my head around where it's cross-referenced and where it's not.
So if you look at it, so they're under school board member conduct, you'll see the header says in carrying out his or her fiduciary duties, and then the
Board members shall
4.
not-
But then for the, for the staff members, each staff, it's a
Right.
different header under rules of conduct, because obviously there are different intentionalities behind the role. There probably wouldn't be as many opportunities for
Right.
a staff member to have,
Right.
expansive fiduciary duties. So we brought these, just the two that are not necessarily required by law. In essence, if we want to keep consistency across the board in regard to multiple roles and behaviors and multiple roles, but again, it is just the third one that we already have that we're revising with that one tantamount that is required by law. So that's why it's,
Required by law, not suggested by the CASB lawyers. That's our understanding.
well, I know the policy itself is required by law. I'm not sure in regard to tantamount. I don't know if the law can tell us we have to use that word or not.
Well, the only reason I bring it up, and this is a personal pet peeve, is honestly, is some of the things that the CASB lawyers send down here seem like a waste of our money to pay them to do and a waste of our time to vote on. I mean, and this seems to be one of those things, like, who cares? I mean,
Well, and maybe Brooke early on can give some insight into that, whether it's a CASB recommendation, that would be my guess. The policy though itself, we have to have a policy around this, yes.
I think my understanding is that we are required by law to adopt a policy that requires screening of new and current employees for criminal activities. Beyond that, I think it is a suggestion of CASB that we add the words, the tantamount piece. I don't think it is required by law to do that. And I'm happy to check with our attorneys or Michelle Murphy to see if that is a requirement to put in there. And if we don't want to, if it's not, we don't want to bring it back, I'm happy not to bring it back for action, because we already have this policy. It's just a revision.
you know, to me, again, it's the point of why are we wasting our time? Why are we paying 2 staff attorneys to do this trivial stuff? I mean, that's just me, though. I'll let it go at that.
Well, we can look at that. I mean, that's the thing. When they make recommendations, we tend to bring them to the table. That's the way it's always been done.
Yep.
Um,
And it should
but
be.
I wonder, well, that brings up a question
If
I've
the
never
board,
thought about before.
sorry,
No, you go.
if the board is comfortable with me reaching out to legal counsel and visiting with Ms. Davlin to make a determination, we will, if we feel it's necessary, we'll bring it back for a vote. If we feel it's not necessary, we'll leave it as is. Is that something you're comfortable with?
Yes.
And then how, just on their face, how do you guys feel about the other two? That would be new, not necessarily required.
Well, I'm not receiving any payments for anything, so I feel pretty comfortable.
I mean, it's good to hold ourselves to a high standard,
It is.
I think.
And
That's kind of where I was at with it.
it is. And I like the school board member conduct. I like the way that this is outlined personally.
And honestly, if a school board member has the lack of judgment to accept money, they shouldn't be on the school board,
Agreed.
period.
Agreed.
65 or $75.
Any money.
To me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I would agree.
Exactly.
So on those two, if the board is comfortable, we will bring them back for a vote at the next meeting, BC and BCR.
Sounds good to me.
And then we'll look into GBED.
Anything else on these? Okay. On to action items. We have one action item. And I believe this is the same information we discussed last time. We were, I believe, missing 2 board meetings, 2 board members. at the last meeting, so if there's any questions, Ms. Hogue is here.
Thank you, Ms. Hogue.
Like to, and Mr. Moore's here from a finance department standpoint as well. But I'd like to just bring your attention, when we do these, you're not necessarily approving the raise itself. Is what you do is you approve new salary schedules. And those are all attached. So at the last board meeting, you would have seen two salary schedules side by side, the old one and the new one. Just like with policy, now you just see the finished draft. These would take effect for us on November the 1st, for the November 1st payroll. So, again, and I said this last time, it's not often that you see a mid-year salary adjustment like this, but we feel that it's necessary and important for our staff. And again, Ms. Hogue's here, Mr. Moore's here. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
And we discussed this, it was made clear to the board at the last meeting, but if you weren't here at the last meeting, the overall increase of $182,250 is for 23-24, and it starts in November. So the overall continuing increase will be closer to $250,000. Which we feel is sustainable, by the way.
Yeah. And this is going to put us ahead of the minimum wage increase in January.
Correct.
And can we figure out a way to kind of make sure maybe we don't get behind on this again?
So you will see, and I said this at the last meeting, Ms. Hogue is already starting the process of doing an entire salary schedule for an entire salary study for the whole district that would come into effect if it's warranted in the 24-25 school year, to ensure that we're at that. The state will go to $15. We know that's coming. It may not be on January 1st, but they have to do it by 2025. So we know that that's coming, but this will bring us ahead of the curve on minimum wage. And we'll continue to work with it. We're looking and hearing back and forth on what inflation rates look like. Right now, I believe they're sitting at 4.8, 4.9%. But obviously, when we get to the legislative session and see what funding looks like and all those effects, we'll continue to watch it and continue to bring proposals back that will meet the needs of our staff.
It always feels more comfortable with these, like when we are able to get ahead of them before June and roll them into the bigger, so I just wanted to make sure that we have something in our minds or we're looking down the road going, okay, we're about to have this problem again based on inflation or whatever it is. And it sounds like we were not in a great place, and this will get us in a great place. So thank you for doing all that.
And our hope is that in the spring, we can bring something, our hope is to address all staff across the board.
Yep.
And have that conversation. But again, it will depend on enrollment funding, all the pieces that go with that. But Ms. Hogue's working on that study. We actually discussed it earlier today.
Great, thank you.
Superintendent Hanhart, can you explain the categories under paraprofessional, please? I don't really understand the difference between base 45-hour and 90-hour.
I can, but Ms. Hogue can explain it better.
Perfect, sorry.
Please.
So what it means is when you're going for continuing education, so we have paraprofessionals right now that are going towards a degree. So the 45 and 90 would be credit hours towards their degree. And once they get their degree, they go to the degree column. That's how they just write it, like we do with teachers. So we have the BA plus 10, BA plus 20. So it's just continuing education up to a degree.
Okay, makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this discussion?
No.
Mr. Turner?
I am good.
I'll make a motion that we approve the classified staff salary schedules 23-24 as updated, or as presented, excuse me.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Rick, would you call the question, please?
Amy,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Hi.
Matt,
Aye.
Debbie.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good job. The last item on the agenda is adjournment. Before we go there, we'll talk about our meeting schedules a little bit different for the next few weeks. We have our Casby Regional meeting tomorrow. We have a board retreat taking the place of our regular meeting the second week of October. And our second meeting in October we've moved that forward a week due to conflicting schedules. So we're off a little bit from the norm for the next month.
Can I add a piece of that before you adjourn?
Yep.
We don't need to decide this today. However, November, typically we only have one meeting because the other one lands on Thanksgiving week. This year it does not. So I would like to look in at the end of October, November, and determine if that meeting is necessary at the end of November. It's not during Thanksgiving week this year, but typically we've only had one meeting in November.
Typically, we have to have a meeting after the votes are certified, and that will end up being the second meeting.
But
And it might
usually-
not be as early as November 28th, but probably will be. And so it might be safe just to keep it there with the knowledge that we might have to change it.
I think in the past, they've usually made it, I know it's been late November.
Mm-hmm. And usually the conference backs right up to that
Yeah.
second meeting, but this year we have a whole nother
Yeah.
week buffer. But we have 10 days, I think, is the time limit from when those votes the election results are certified to swear in our new
So we'll
officers.
be done then. No. So let's keep it as a placeholder, and for some reason we have to move it because it hasn't been certified yet. Perfect.
Okay, that sounds good.
I like it.
Everybody?
Yeah, so we'll keep November 28th as the placeholder.
But if the election's not certified,
Then we'll have to, okay.
we'll have to move it.
Okay, last item on the agenda is adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Wow,
Short.
That was.
yeah.
Well done.
Welcome aboard, Annalise.
Thanks.